So in my last video, I talked about the new PPP necessity questionnaire, but this video is going to focus on how do you account for the PPP loan that you received, considering it might be forgiven. Hi, my name is Chris Passmore and I'm your social media CPA. So if you're one of the thousands of companies who received a PPP loan this year, you still have to record that in your accounting system, whether that's QuickBooks or Xero, or maybe an old-fashioned spreadsheet. You received a loan, let's just say $100,000, you now need to account for that. And how do you do that? Especially considering it might be forgiven. Well, there has been guidance from the AICPA and also insight from the SEC, and they've given companies basically two ways to account for your PPP loan and also to consider that subsequent forgiveness. And we're in this really weird phase right now that it's very likely that many companies will receive their PPP loan in 2020, but won't know if it will be forgiven until 2021. Either your lender hasn't accepted applications yet, or maybe you've applied for that forgiveness, but you won't find out if it's legally forgiven until 2021. So how do you actually account for all of this? How do you put this in QuickBooks? So option number one, that's allowable under generally accepted accounting principles. This is the rules we all have to follow when accounting for things, is to treat that PPP loan as a regular loan or debt, which just means that you record this in QuickBooks and you take the increase in income and then you record a loan liability on your balance sheet. And you keep that in your general ledger or in QuickBooks until that loan is extinguished. And by extinguished, it means one, that loan is repaid, or two, you're legally released from that obligation. So if you choose this method, most likely you're going to end the year with a loan on your books and also the expenses that related to the PPP that is intended for. For example, your payroll. So what is option number two? Option number two is to account for your PPP as a government grant. This follows the idea of substance over form. For many companies, this was not intended to be a loan. This was intended to be a forgivable grant. Money given to a for-profit company that, if used for payroll, rent, utilities, would be relieved from repayment. So the AICPA under GAAP has said, well, you can treat this as a government grant, and basically it would be the same general accounting when you receive the loan. You would record the income of cash and a corresponding liability on your balance sheet. But if it's reasonable that you are going to have that amount forgiven, then you have the ability to recognize that reduction of your liability when you've deemed it reasonably going to happen. And just to clarify, reasonable, it means that it has to hold up under scrutiny that, one, you qualified to take the loan, there was an economic uncertainty and a need that you had for your business requiring the loan, and two, that you met the requirements to qualify forgiveness. So you used this for payroll over the 24-week period for rent, and both of those items have been satisfied. If so, you could actually take and account for that forgiveness before the legal release of the liability. So if you account for this as a grant and you prove that it is reasonable that you'll be forgiven, you now record the expense in the period that was intended for the PPP, for example, the payroll, and you record the income or the offset or the forgiveness in the same month. So this actually pushes the income back to 2020. In accounting, this is the concept of matching, and so it's a net zero. You take the expense and the income in the same period. And then the actual presentation of this on your income statement, you can either offset these in the same account. think about it as a payroll expense account. You have money going out to your employees, and then you have money coming in from the PPP. Those can stay in one account, your payroll account. Or if you prefer to track those separately, you can record the original payroll expense in your payroll expense account, but then record other income separately for the forgiveness. So you can see that you have two options here. I think most people would generally record this as a grant, which means that you can record this now all in 2020, but that's a decision for you and your management team based on your facts and circumstances. So that's it. Those are the two choices available to you to actually book this in your QuickBooks file. If you have any questions on how you would record this for your company, please send me a direct message. I'd be happy to help and walk you through the debits and credits. And I look forward to speaking with you in my next video.